Hey everybody, Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of a 6-part series covering Planet Crafter. This series will be a mix of Let's Play and tutorial. If you would like to skip the overview, please use YouTube chapters. Planet Crafter is a space survival, open world terraforming and crafting game. You work to transform the ecosystem of a hostile planet to make it livable for humans. Survive, collect, build your base, and then create oxygen, heat, pressure, and other things to make a brand new biosphere. And as per usual, this will air on YouTube. So let's get started with a brand new world. I'm going to be doing a standard across the board, standard landing site, standard game mode, but there is relaxing, intense, hardcore, and then also different landing sites. The standard rifts and sandfalls are all roughly the same difficulty, and then the meteor crater is a little bit harder. Once you know where you're going, landing sites almost don't matter at all, though. Okay. Loading up. So if you have any questions as I play, feel free to use the channel point redemptions for ask a question about the game, and I'll do my best to try to answer your questions. And right at the start here, there is like a whole sequence of things that need to happen, so I'm not going to be doing viewer-suggested ideas. Instead, I will be crafting a backpack, oxygen tank, and some microchips. But in terms of the UI, I guess before I even start, if you hit escape, you can see the controls. They're very simple. You have movement, tab for inventory, shift for sprint, Q for build, left click for mining or construction, depending on your tool, and then middle mouse middle mouse scrolling for rotating, and then F if you have a torch. Bottom left is your food, which is also your health. You've got water or hydration and oxygen, and you have to manage those, and if you don't, you die. And the first thing we're going to do is you have a little container here with some oxygen, water, and space food, as you won't be able to grow food for a while, so you do have to rely on space food. So don't eat all your space food right at the start. And a plant seed. And we are going to be crafting a backpack. So a backpack just requires 2 iron, which is this stuff. We will also need a oxygen tank. And I believe the oxygen tank is 2 cobalt, iron, and magnesium. But I don't exactly have it memorized, so if I'm wrong, I'll learn. And as you can see, now that I'm out of this survival pod, my oxygen's going down. This survival pod will magically replace the oxygen that you lose when you're out of it. But here we go. Backpack tier 1, in. And oxygen tank, in. So now, my backpack went from 4x3 to 4x4, and there's 5 tiers of backpacks, 5 tiers of oxygen. The next thing we want to do is a microchip for construction, so I can actually build facilities. So for that, I need 2 silicon and 2 magnesium. And right now, there's actually a meteor shower. So that's, let's call it fun. Because food, especially early game, is kind of limited, it's best to not allow these things to hit you in the face. There is an achievement to be hit in the face by an asteroid, but I am going to try to do my best to, not have that happen. The asteroid strikes are actually a way to gain renewable resources, however. So one of the advantages that you gain is that these strikes are bringing in fresh ores to the surface. So the asteroid strikes also will not destroy buildings. It might inconvenience you if it displaces a whole bunch of rock and blocks off the area, but it won't actually destroy any of the facilities you build through space magic. You know space magic. And then this is a storage crate that came down with one of those, and it had, resources as well that we can loot. So I now have the resources for the microchip construction, and we'll get that going. So this microchip allows me to actually build facilities with Q. So you can see there's base building, machines, information screens, and furniture. Most of the furniture, except for the storages, and one could argue the desktops that allow you to put screens on it, are mostly cosmetic. All right. So the first order of business, before I allow you guys to have any input about what I should be working on, I want to build a basic setup base. You know, one where, because I can't really build in this little survival pod. It's also very cramped and can't be expanded upon. So we need to start a base. And a tiny spoiler, this area that I'm in right now will eventually flood full of water once terraforming starts to happen. So building in this rift valley is a bad idea, because once things get flooded, like wind turbines and mining drills, they'll stop working. So this is only something that you would know having played before. So it is a little bit of a spoiler, but yeah, this low-lying area here, it all becomes one massive lake. So don't build there. Personally, I like to build sort of in this flat area over here, primarily because it's somewhat central to the entire map. This is sort of equidistant to every point of interest on the map. And if you're wondering, the map is not procedurally generated, it is static, so it does not change. So one feature of the game, I need to get titanium. One feature of the game is that once you have an enclosed space, it just gets oxygen. So as you can see in the bottom left here, my oxygen meter just filled up. So you don't need to like generate oxygen. The game's more about terraforming the planet than anything else. So first order of business is to have you guys vote for the priority. So the poll is up there on the top right. And what I'm going to do in the meantime is just move my starter gear into this little 1x1 cube to keep it safe. So I'm a glorified Sherpa at the moment while you guys decide on what I'm going to do. I should explain a little bit of the goals of the game, however. So the initial goals of the game is to generate oxygen, heat, and pressure. Generating oxygen, heat, and pressure will help to slowly terraform the planet. And you unlock technology through doing those three things. There will be screens that I'll be able to make pretty soon, which will show you the technological progress of the game. There is a sort of average terraformation index, which you can see in the top right. And the terraformation index sort of indicates how much progress in general you've made in terraforming your planet. And you unlock some techs through that, but other techs are obtained when you hit milestones for oxygen, pressure, heat, and biomass and other things. So there are other sort of currently not seen goals that will be displayed to you later on. Marauder, Joint, Kellyan, Banished Puppet, thank you so very much for the resubs. I'm also just putting in a microchip for deconstruction so that I can deconstruct the starter storage crate. And then mosey on back over to my little starting area. Well, Maury, thank you for all the gifted subs. Despite the screen being orange, I'm going to be pink colored as a way to say thank you. Cheers. Also, I think it's probably worth mentioning, this is single player. When you hit escape, time doesn't elapse. It doesn't even elapse in menus. So if you're like, you know, having to fiddle around in the menu, it pauses. And it has been pretty recently updated. All right, so it looks like a mix of generate power and expand the base. That is what we're going to do. Got it. Which is probably pretty good. I do need to do all those first step things anyway. So let's get them done. So I think what I'm going to do is have these 4 boxes that I've set up here just be like drop boxes. Boxes that just hold general items, common use items. And then I'm going to start to do the first step stuff. Also, as a new player, definitely mine aluminum, because it's a little bit harder to get than the other elements, and you will need a lot of it for the higher tech stuff. So if you ever see that shiny silvery aluminum, and there's hills over there that are chock full of it, that is probably one of the more valuable resources you can get early on. So there's different ways to build bases. There are foundations that you can have put your habitats like up on stilts, let's call it. The only reason I don't typically use them, or like I have in the past, but I'm gonna not use them now, is your structures don't actually snap to them, as I will demonstrate. So if you're OCD, it like is going to drive you mad, because another thing that you might be able to see is they're not the same size. Foundations and the 1x1 cubes are of different dimensions, so you will never get it looking right. Or like, rather, it will take an immense amount of effort for it to ever look right. So I don't bother. I just don't bother. There's nothing really stopping you from having like straight up floating cubes if you want. As odd as that might look. The game won't prevent you from it. So, you know, that's... keep that in mind as well, I suppose. So, what I'm doing right now is I'm just trying to set up, like, a basic living area that I won't need to necessarily expand for a while. That will be able to accommodate most of the early game expansion. My advice is to build 2x2 cubes, as you'll find, most things will pretty easily fit into 2x2s. So, I'm just going to get a little bit more titanium and iron and get some initial structures built. The other thing that you might notice is that my hydration is dropping. So I'll have to fill that up pretty soon. As you start the game, you'll have access to ices that you can find on the ground and mine up and melt in a crafter in order to rehydrate. Later on, you will gain the option to do, like, rain harvesting and harvesting liquid water from lakes, or even just drinking straight out of lakes. So there are a lot of different ways to, like, solve resource scarcity problems, let's call it. But right now, I came with a starter water bottle, so I'll just drink that. And then if I ever am, like, bothered that things are floating, I could just stick foundations under it like this to make it look like it's supported, if I ever care to. And I'm also going to try to build symmetrically. So the idea is to have a 2x2 and a 2x2 on both sides. And this is probably larger than I really ought to need to set up initially. But once this gets done, I'll have you guys vote for another project. And we'll start actually terraforming, because right now I'm just expanding. So it looks like need mostly iron. Yeah, I use foundations for the items that you can place outdoors more than hoisting things into the hab. The foundations will lock to one another, so they make for good, like, patios and the like, but they won't look right if you put your habs on them. Again, this is just a personal preference. Obviously, you can disagree and just build it your way, and, you know, everyone has their own desire. But for mine, I'm just gonna have it be a ground level. So there we go. There's my little starter hab with a 2x2 and a 2x2, and finish first steps is my current priority. So we are going to get a drill tier 1 and a wind turbine tier 1. So even though there's, like, no atmosphere on Mars right now, somehow or another a wind turbine will work. And then here is a drill. What the wind turbine does is it produces 1.2 kilowatts, and then the drill uses half a kilowatt and produces a tiny bit of pressure. Tiny bit of pressure. Right now I'm just trying to do the first step stuff. So let's craft our first screen, the screen for terraformation. These screens are one of the ways that you will track your progress in the game and to know like what parts of terraforming is lagging behind. Like if you're making a lot of heat but not a lot of oxygen, or you're making a lot of pressure but not a lot of heat, so on and so forth. And also like how much more of something you need before you can earn an unlock. And if you also look in the top right, you can see that my terraformation index is slowly going up. And that is a result of the little mining drill there producing a tiny bit of pressure. Now at this rate, it would probably take me literally years to ever accomplish to terraform it in a significant way, and also without the ability of, without me making oxygen and heat, you know, I'm only really affecting one statistic. So here it is. This is the terraformation screen. So you can see I have a tiny bit of pressure and how much pressure I'm making per second. No heat, no oxygen. I'm also going to put down some desktops. So these desktops, oh, come on, just fit. Well, some of the screens you put up on the walls, and then some of the screens you put up more like on furniture. So the next screen I want to make is the blueprint screen, and that is one that you put on furniture. As you'll see, it's a different size. Oh, and I missed a cheers. Oh, hold on. My my alerts system is offline. Looking for iron. Really early on, especially when you're expanding your base, the regular base habs is about a 2-to-1 ratio of iron to titanium. So really early on, you're going to need a lot of iron. And iron, if you like to build, is going to be probably your primary resource. But you're not going to find, you know, you're not going to find aluminum outside of special caves or a few specific biomes. So if meteorite strikes hit and it produces aluminum, definitely loot it, because you're going to want it. Just a word from someone who has fully terraformed a planet before. It becomes necessary. If you're wondering what happens when you run out of like oxygen, you will start to wheeze, and then you will black out and die. It does give you a little bit of leeway, but I'm going to try to go this entire stream without, you know, croaking if I can help it. So we'll see. So this is the blueprint screen, and it will show you what the requirements are for unlocking specific tech. So in the top is terraformation, which is like an average of all of your efforts to terraform. So at like 300 Ti, I get backpack tier 2. I'm already at 40 Ti. And then you have specific items unlocked through oxygen generation, through heat, and through pressure. So I'm also heading towards the oxygen tank tier 2. I'm a little over halfway there. I'm at 42 nanopascals, or whatever NPA stands for. I think that's what it is. And at 70, I unlock the oxygen tank. So if you want specific items, like let's say I want to start generating heat more efficiently, it would help for me to get 80 parts per trillion of oxygen. So it gives you sort of like a goal to work towards. And this isn't the only blueprint screen. There are other blueprint screens that you get available to you later on. The other thing I wanted to do is to make a heater, and here, let me empty my inventory. A heater and a vegetube. So the heater requires a resource called iridium. NPA is nanopascal. I figured the N was nano. I know PA was pascal. Requires iridium, and depending on your starting location, this might not be true for you, but this weird sand falling cave thing is is an iridium cave, and it's going to be a red resource that you're going to need a whole lot of as you play. So highly advise that you make sure that you don't like throw away iridium that you gain, because iridium is not a easily renewable resource. Another thing I just realized is I like walked over here and it kind of took a while, and I'm gonna suffocate it unless I build a little box for myself. I'm sort of used to not playing early game, and I forgot that, like, my oxygen depletes pretty quickly early on. So, little race to, you know, not suffocate. I think it just needs silicone. Yeah. Give me the silly. Well, there's silicone. You know how I tried to not die? Yeah, well, I guess this is a good demonstration of what happens. We'll go with that. So you drop some of your inventory is what happens. It depends. If you're on hardcore mode, obviously you would die. Another thing I could have done is just brought an oxygen bottle with me. I'm just so not used to the early game because it's been a while since I played early game. But what I usually do pretty early game is to walk around with 3 iron, 2 titanium, and 1 silicon. Because what that will allow you to do is to make a little 1x1 box to prevent you, you know, because any little 1x1 box will replenish your oxygen, and your oxygen is the resource that is going to be depleted much faster than anything else. Oxygen runs out quickest, then water, and then food. Yeah, when you're used to having a breathable atmosphere, you kind of forget the little things, and that's exactly what happened to me. I forgot that A, I'm really slow moving, because as you tech up, you gain the ability to move a lot faster. And then also B, I don't even have a tier 2 oxygen tank. Luckily, I didn't have anything in my inventory that I even care about. Oh, except for the titanium that I would need to, you know, not die right now. So, here's my death box. And here is the door to prevent me from asphyxiating. Ta-da! But this time I actually brought an oxygen capsule. So this is aluminum. Again, definitely pick that up. But in this case, because we want to make a heater, I want iridium. And we'll go that it is canon that I meant to asphyxiate just to show you the death penalty. You know, well, we'll just give me that leeway and it won't happen twice. And then once I make a veggie tube, I'm going to leave it up to you next. So there is the pull again. You're going to get familiar about seeing that. So after I have a veggie tube making a little bit of oxygen, a heater making a little bit of heat, and the mine drill making a little bit of pressure, you guys will be able to decide what I am going to work on next. And I'm going to try to play sort of meta and sort of quickly. I'll explain as much as I can as I go, so that you understand that I'm trying to make informed decisions and all. But I would like to show as much of the game's content as possible within a 4-hour span. Or 3 hours and 40 minutes, or whatever is left. All right. Another thing I'm going to need is the crafting station, because I'm not going to run all the way back to the starter area in order to hydrate. So I just made a little crafting station tier 2, which has a wider range of crafting options. But in powering it on, it actually powered off the base. So another little wind turbine over there to make sure the power is still running. All right, so for the heater, it's... and let's decide to put our heaters over in this corner. This will be where we put our heaters. And that heater required enough power that it knocked my power out. Plop down a few extra wind turbines. Hey, Mox. Thank you for the resub. And welcome. There are no cables. Power is shared amongst the entire planet. So if I built a base like a mile over that way, it would still be powered by those wind turbines. There's no like power cables or power lines or anything like that. The last of the first steps is the veggie tube. So the veggie tube requires ice, iron, and magnesium. And at some point I will actually get proper storages where the boxes are labeled and I have them organized. You do end up getting higher capacity boxes. There are 2 that you can unlock. One is unlocked way more easily than the other. The other takes a long time to unlock. Like 30 hours of gameplay or so. Depends on your speed run. But the next unlock is a locker. It's a vertical locker that holds quite a lot, which is going to be sufficient for all, you know, most of this series. And I'll stick the vegetubes over here. So the way the vegetubes work is you stick plant seeds in them and they generate oxygen. There is kind of a finite amount of seeds that you can find in the game, but despite the amount being finite, it's still a lot. So it's finite, but it's quite a lot of it. The first steps also has me asking me to craft a progress screen, but that is unlocked at what would K stand for? I don't even know. I know K is the Kelvin. So pico-Kelvin or whatever. I'm at like 38 pico-Kelvin, I'm guessing. I don't know. Whatever. Doesn't matter. But I'm not going to get that unlocked for a while unless I start generating heat. And the first big milestone is to get a blue sky, which is at 175,000 transformation index. So you guys want me to generate oxygen? That is my current goal. And here's the thing. The only thing that's going to be generating oxygen for me right now is the vegetubes. So being that the only way for me to generate oxygen is the vegetubes, I'm going to need to go get more plant seeds. Now because I've played before, know where all the good plant seeds are. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. But as a new player, without spoiling too much, as a new player, basically it's the points of interest on the map. So like that cruiser right there would have some plant seeds in it. And right where you spawn in the game, there is another ship up that hill that will have plant seeds in it. So if you're ever looking for plant seeds, you definitely should be looking for notable points of interest. There are also secret, very high value crates in the game. That are there because it's not a procedurally generated map. They're in a static position, so anyone that has played knows where they are, and that's, as any expert or veteran of the game, you know exactly where I'm walking to right now. With that said, despite the fact that there is like a finite amount of plant seeds in the game, you probably won't run out. You would have to be quite enterprising to use all the ones you find, because you find dozens upon dozens upon dozens of them. And the way the game works is like, periodically you're given more efficient methods to generate oxygen using those same seeds. So there's a vegetube tier 2, which will generate more oxygen than the vegetube tier 1. So this is what I was talking about, this container here. This container is one of the golden crates. There is, 21 golden crates on the map? Something like that. And they all hold... Every single golden crate will hold one of these golden seeds, and also an effigy. And the golden seeds generate oxygen way more efficiently than most of the seeds you're going to find. There are some seeds that can rival the golden seed, especially late game, but early game, they're your oxygen generators. So if you know where the locations are, you can really benefit. So I think what I'll do, generating oxygen, is to set this golden seed into a vegetube, and then go into the cruiser and get a few more seeds from the cruiser over there that my base is next to generate a little bit more oxygen. Finally, an experienced player. If you're wondering, I try my very best to learn a lot about a game. Now, granted, this is coming from someone who literally just asphyxiated in the iridium mine, but I try to learn as much as I can about a game before playing, unless it's a blind playthrough. So parts per quadrillion. This is 0.15 parts per quadrillion from that seed. Oh, and I don't have space. Stick that down. So if I swap that out, it's now 90. Right? It goes up considerably using the golden seed, by 600% in fact. So yeah, you can definitely min-max your oxygen generation by going after the highest value seeds, but there is a finite amount of golden seeds that exist in the game. There's a finite amount of like all seeds that exist in the game, so you won't always be able to just put the best seeds in. Sometimes you just have to settle for lower quality seeds, and on top of that, they're additive, right? So now I'm almost generating 1 part per quadrillion, which would be represented over here. Or actually, it's 1.05. I stand corrected. I have hit that. Okay, before I go exploring that cruiser, it's probably going to be very efficient for me to upgrade my backpack and upgrade my oxygen tank. Because without a better backpack and oxygen tank, I'm going to have to make multiple trips and spend less time in there because I'll suffocate. And then also get the exoskeleton, which is going to allow me to get the torch built into my suit. Because the cruisers are going to be very dark. As there's no atmosphere, well, they're always dark even when you have atmosphere. But in an environment without atmosphere, light doesn't fill a room because there's nothing for it to, never mind. I don't need to talk about atmospheric light here. But let's get a better backpack and a better oxygen tank. So for the backpack, iron, silicon, titanium. And then also to take off my backpack first. So level 1 backpack is part of what a level 2 backpack is. And then for the next oxygen tank, it's silicon, cobalt, titanium, and 2 mag. Silicon, titanium, cobalt. Okay, I'm going to need some of those. Yeah, the light never diffuses. Yeah, thanks. That's probably the word I was looking for. This game doesn't really do a good job of, like, that kind of light rendering, however. While I'm out here, I'm just going to, like, fill my pockets full of resources to save myself future trips. And maybe some ice, too, so I can drink. One more spot. The maps currently are fixed. I don't know if there's going to be a plan for procedurally generated maps. I'm going to go with no, but I could be wrong. It's not part of the development that I know about. So then the next thing I want to do is to get an exoskeleton tier 1, which will double the amount of space that I have for equipment, and then to get a torch. So for that, I need 2 magnesium. Yeah, I sorted out they'll do procedural as well. As this... I mean, if they did do procedural, it would just be like a general survival mode, I guess. But if you're wondering, there is a story that you eventually gain access to while playing, which is why I doubt they'll do procedural generation, because the story has very specific points of interest. I just don't want to spoil too much, but as you like early game, it looks like it could be procedurally generated, but later on, you sort of understand that it would make less sense for that to be the case. So another thing I like to do is at every major point of interest, I take the time to build a little 1x1 box so that I can top up my oxygen, because this will help prevent, you know, asphyxiation deaths, which is something I promised I would avoid. And when you build these little 1x1s at points of interest, you always know where the little 1x1 is going to be, because it's at the point of interest. If you leave it in the middle of like an open field, it might be a little bit harder to come by later on. You do eventually unlock the ability to build beacons, which will give you a heads-up display of where your where stuff is, but you don't get that until a little bit later on. So as you can see, yeah, obviously I'm going to want the torch. It's pretty dang dark in here. Another thing I like to do is to deconstruct the boxes that I loot, so that if I ever return to a place, I don't have to think too hard about whether or not it's been looted, because the boxes are just going to be missing, right? Because if you leave the boxes, you're probably liable to check them multiple times. My inventory is just about full, so I'm going to turn back. You found that storage containers respawn? I haven't. I mean, some of them respawn, the ones out in the open, when meteorite strikes come in. But not the ones ever in the ships. Or golden ones. Obviously, golden ones don't respawn because they're unique. And, but yeah, I've never actually had them respawn in the ships. That's strange. Maybe that's a bug that got resolved. Something that might be helpful for this base is you just have doors that exit in other directions. So, talking about what I just looted here, we have got a blueprint for microchips, and I'll show you how to use that in a second. Also, fabric. Fabric, until much later in the game, will be a finite resource that you won't actually use much of, but you shouldn't throw it away, because when you need it, you're gonna want it. And then, I know I'm not doing any organization right now, but I'm just gonna slap down more boxes. But at some point, I'll do some proper storage rooms type stuff. And if you look at the label of the boxes, you can always write what's in there. So the way the blueprints work is you go up to the blueprint terminal, and then you just decode it. So this blueprint just gave me something called agility boost, which allows me to walk faster, and it cost me 2 fabric and 2 aluminum. And yeah, that sounds good to me. Done. Added to my suit. So now I sprint a little bit faster. But back on track, you guys wanted me to add some more oxygen generation. So I did unlock 3 different seeds. Lerma seeds, which is your basic seed. Shanga, which is 150%, and Pastorelle, which is 200%. So let's get all 3 of these built. For that, I'm going to need 3 iron, 3 ice, 3 magnesium. So I've got the iron, got the ice. I just need the magnesium. After this, what would you like to see me do? Do you want me to continue working on oxygen, meaning gaining more plant seeds and germinating them in veggie tubes, or work on heat, pressure, generate more power? And in fact, I'll probably need to make a little bit of power just to power the veggie tubes that I'm adding. I could also search for wrecks and treasures, going out to additional golden crates or ships that are downed, or just generally expand the base. Choice is yours. I also now have access to the solar panels. There is a perceived day-night cycle in the game, but like, it's a lie, so use solar. Is all I'm gonna say. All right, we got a bunch of plants, and as you can see, the oxygen here, just forgetting the units, we have like 1.7 of oxygen, 0.3 of heat, 0.2 of pressure. So it gives you kind of an average of how you're doing in terms of progression. Am I a dev of the game? I am. Oh, is Nintendo a dev of the game? I have had some devs like show up in streams. That's always fun because then they can watch me like fall flat on my face. So you guys want more wreck looting? Got it. So search wrecks and treasures. Thank you for tuning in to Planet Crafter, which originally streamed live on Twitch August 29th. If you have any feedback or questions for me, please let me know in the comments below. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you would like to join my online gaming community on Discord, a link can be found in the description of this video or on my website. Thank you so very much for watching, and a special thank you to my Twitch subscribers, Patreon patrons, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you in next episode or an upcoming stream of something else. Farewell.